Everyone,
Okay,
everyone see that?
Yes.
Good.
perfect.
Let me
All
just
right.
move it up here. Okay.
All right, so many of you know our mission statement. MWA is a nonprofit organization dedicated to protecting and improving the Musconetcong watershed and its waters for all people and nature. We do this through planning, education, advocacy, stewardship. That consists of water quality data collection, youth and adult education, outreach, environmental restoration like dam removals or plantings, and policy work addressing that foundational science. So MWA is currently working on a watershed vision plan. So one of the goals of that plan is to preserve and help local farmers. So tonight we're happy to have with us two representatives from local organizations who do just that. So first we'll be hearing from Catherine Suttle of Hunterdon Land Trust. She'll highlight its producers only farmers market and explore the change in the local farmers' livelihoods. Explore how this tool has supported local farmers' livelihoods and has been changing and will continue to do so. After that, we'll hear from Tess Mullen of Foodshed Alliance, who will discuss how its Sustainable Agriculture Enterprise Program helps farmers get onto lands by partnering with land trusts. So if you have any questions while Catherine and Tess are presenting, please feel free to either type them into the chat or just save them to the end of the presentation. And as a reminder, please leave yourself on mute throughout the presentation. So let me begin by introducing our first speaker, Catherine Suttle. She's the Executive Director of Hunterdon Land Trust. Catherine joined Hunterdon Land Trust in 2007. Before becoming Executive Director, she took responsibility for planning, developing, and carrying out capital projects at the historic DeVore Farm. She ran HLT's farmers market for many years, and she has also been involved in obtaining government and foundation funding for HLT. So without further ado, Catherine, you can take it away.
Okay. I don't see many people that I know. I saw Bill Evans and I saw Laura from RC&D, and the rest of you, hopefully you'll have some questions for me. I don't know how many of you know Hunterdon Land Trust, so I'm just going to spend a little bit of time about that. We were founded in 1996, and we're a pretty traditional land trust in that we preserve, our mission is to preserve farmland and open space. And we work primarily in the Hunterdon County region, but we are a private land trust. And so far, we've been involved in preserving over 11,650 acres. Our four areas of focus, as I said, we transform private land to public and open space and preserve farmland. And we do routine stewardship on our 13 easements and 8 preserves, making them accessible to the public. And the two things that are a little unique about us is we have a year-round farmers market, and we have a historic property. One of our preserves is 40-acre historic farm in Flemington, New Jersey, and that's where our headquarters is. And it has 10 historic buildings, and it's on the New Jersey and National Registers of historic places. So it has, we are rehabilitating it and have worked towards this for many years so that it's more accessible to the public. Just does not seem to want to change slides here. There we go.
Yeah,
So
Linda, we're not actually seeing those slides on the screen.
oh, you're not? Are you seeing my email?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh dear. Well, thank you for saying something. Let me see if I can get this to, I guess I'm gonna have to put it down. I've got two screens here. Apologize about that. So can you see it now? Good. So this is what the other slides look like. So our farmers market opened in '07. So this summer will be our 18th year. And we have focused on producers. The mission of our market is, public outreach for the organization. Also, since we help preserve farmland, to promote the benefits of farmland preservation and to help farmers stay on their land and make farming, a decent livelihood. We also strive to educate consumers and help them have relationships with farmers, and increase the sale of local products. So we have been fairly successful doing these things over the years, but I'm showing a graph here. We count cars every market day. And this is our summer, these are our numbers for our summer market from 2009 to 2023. And you can see, hopefully you can see, that, for the first through 2015, we did have a bit of a slump, but we kind of kept this is our average car count per season. You know, and it's a 26-week season. So it goes all the way into November. So an average of 400 cars a week is pretty good. We figure maybe we get 2 people per car. So we're bringing quite a few people to the market. But as you can see, we did have a bump during the pandemic. We were open during the pandemic, and I think people appreciated it. But the car count has continued to go down. I also wanted to show the vendor participation. The blue line on the top is vendors who are producers, and the ones on the bottom are other types of vendors, and that could be prepared foods, coffee, things other than producers. So our producers have stayed fairly steady, although I will say we've lost some large farms that used to be part of our market. And I think in some cases, their business model changed. And perhaps, they were a smaller farm when they started with our market, and then they grew. One farmer was quite large, and he built a store for his to sell his products, and it's close enough that he didn't want to continue at our market. So I'm hoping that some of you that are attending are farmers, or go to farmers markets regularly and have some thoughts about what could be changing for farmers markets. When we started the market in '07, we were the only market in the area. There was one that was on Saturday, but over the years, there's been many markets have opened around us. Clinton has one, even Holland Township had one. Stangel Market in Flemington is a regular market now. So there are many more markets than there used to be. And I've spoken to some farmers, one that's still with us, one that stopped coming to our market. And they talked about how, shoppers now are looking for an experience when they come to the market. And farmers are getting more selective, particularly farmers who make 100% of their living from farms. Their break-even point is higher perhaps than it used to be. The minimum wage has gone up. There are labor shortages since the pandemic, where they are having problems hiring people to come if they want to go to multiple markets. Shoppers have a lot more options now to get fresh produce than they used to. There are CSAs that deliver to people's homes. So these are just some of the things that farmers have told me and that I have noticed. They've also said that the most successful markets are quite large and predominantly non-farm vendors, made up predominantly of non-farm vendors. Advertising expectations have changed a lot as well. And as any farmer, I'm sure would tell you, running a farm business is very challenging. So I really look forward to hearing from you about your thoughts about this as well. Tess may have some thoughts too. I don't know if you want to, Linda, if you want to stop for a moment and let people ask questions or
Sure, yes. If
comments.
anybody wanted to unmute yourself and ask a question, there were a few I saw starting to pop up in the chat. I can read one aloud. Is there a difference between a producer's farmer's market as opposed to a conventional one, or is that the same?
Well, when I say producer, I mean people that are selling what they grow. And so um, we were heavily focused on that, particularly when we opened. It was a long time before we even had a coffee vendor. So all the farmers, they had to grow what they sold. So that's really what it means. I mean, um, it could be something like cheese, but they had, animals on their land that produced the milk that led to the cheese. Um, we did have baker, um, they weren't growing their wheat, but they had cheese as well. Does that help?
Thank you. I
As a,
saw.
as a land trust, that's what we were focused on it because we're a land trust and we wanted to have farmers there.
I see another one that popped up in chat. Would it make sense to organize the various markets in some way so there was less competition?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, over the years, we have had meetings with other markets. Um, it it does give the farmers a lot more choice as to which markets to go to, and it has the potential to divide the consumer base as well, people that are dedicated to going to farmers markets.
And if anybody else wants to ask, just
Yeah,
unmute yourself and
I
ask.
wanted to say something. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so out by us, we're in Warren County, there's a number of farms that they kind of have their own stands set up, and
Mhm,
that's kind of what we deal with versus going to actual markets, just to
mhm.
give you an idea. But I don't know what others expect by an experience, but I do or will say that if you have something for the kids to do, that's a win.
Mhm, mhm.
Keep the kids happy, gives the parents someplace to take the kids, then they buy things. So if you can appeal to children, that I assume that's what they mean by experience, at least it would for me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We try to do that some Sundays. Yeah.
I was just gonna say I think competition has a lot to do with it. We participate in the Von Thune Farms CSA, And the motivation there is that it's literally between where I work and my house, and I
Mhm.
can stop there and pick up on my way home, and it's no headache, no extra trips. It's just easy for me. So I think that's what a lot of people are looking for, and I think there's a lot more of that sort of competition over the past decade, 15 years.
Mhm.
They've been popping up all over the place. So.
Yeah, I have seen that as well. Um, and really, farmers changing their business model. Farmers are very innovative. They have to be to stay in business. And so they do different things. And it's resulted in there being a lot more options, I think, for consumers. And, the major supermarkets have gotten into the act as well. They buy local produce, sell local produce in the summer now.
Catherine, this is Laura. I was interested in hearing if some of the farmers that come to your market, um, might they also have CSAs and then allow for CSA pickups on site? Do you know if anyone does that? I've heard of that before as kind of being a mixture between being available for those who just come in and purchase, and then also those that are supporting the farm, essentially year round.
Yes, we've had 3 farms over the years that did that. And it's great. It brings more people to our market, perhaps people that wouldn't ordinarily come to our market. And then, shoppers that aren't part of the CSA can shop there too. And so that helps the farmer. Yeah.
I'm just reading through there's some discussion going on in the chat. Someone mentioned when they were running a farmer's market one summer, we wondered what the most successful ones, for example, maybe Easton were doing
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, Easton, Collingswood I was told, is a very successful market. And they're quite large. Summit, um, and I think it's located at a train station, so people can stop there on their way home. Um, you know,
Right. So any last questions from anybody?
Oh, can I chime in one more?
Sure.
I've definitely noticed in a lot of farmers markets, you mentioned that the successful ones are being dominated by a lot of non-producer products.
mhm.
Do you have any conjecture, or maybe any of the farmers you talk to, as to why that is?
I think I have talked to farmers about it, and I think they actually felt like it was a shortcoming of our market that we were producers, so focused on producers, that people just want a lot of different things. And I guess maybe it goes back to the experience that, and some convenience too, but that they can come and it's like a shopping experience. It's more than just for food.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And of course, if anybody has more questions after our next speaker talks and maybe find some connections between the two, feel free to either type them in the chat again or ask them at the end.
So shall I stop sharing now?
Sure. So we're gonna do a little switch up. Catherine's gonna stop sharing her screen, and then Tess is gonna begin to share her screen. So if anybody wants to grab a drink of water or something really quick, feel free. It should only take a minute or two. All right. So I'll just do a quick intro before we start there. So up next, we have Tess Mullen, and she is SAGE Program Coordinator for Foodshed Alliance. Tess is a passionate advocate for environmental, social, and food justice. Prior to joining Foodshed Alliance, she was an organic farmer for 7 years, both leasing land for her own small-scale farm, as well as working on a larger-scale organic farm. Currently working across all of the Foodshed Alliance's programming, she helps connect local farmers, consumers, and small businesses to support one another and learn about sustainable and regenerative practices through marketing and educational activities. So go ahead, Tess.
Thank you, Linda. Can everybody hear me? And hang on, I'm getting a little bit of an echo. Hang on just one second. Okay, that sounds better. Everybody can hear me and see my screen okay? Okay, great. So thanks for the introduction and thanks for kicking us off, Catherine. Yeah, just to kind of build on what Catherine was just saying and tying in my background a little bit, you know, I did all different kinds of farming, you know, going to markets every weekend, developing a CSA, farming straight to sell to institutions. And of course, every model that I've experienced has their advantages and disadvantages, of course. And like Catherine was just showing us, the market is constantly changing. So farmers are always some of the most innovative and creative and great problem solving people. So anyway, so I'm here to talk about the Foodshed Alliance. So we are a nonprofit based in Northwestern New Jersey. We have many different programs. I'm going to talk about a few of them here. So the main one that I'm here to talk about, though, is the SAGE program. So just getting into what we're going to talk about. So just overview of Foodshed, some of our other programs, and then really diving into our SAGE land access program. So Foodshed Alliance as a whole, we work at the intersection of food, farming, and the environment by focusing on increasing farmland access and business viability for farmers, rescuing surplus food from local farms to donate to people facing food and nutrition insecurity in our communities, as well as uniting stakeholders throughout our region to support local watersheds and protect the environment. And the real conviction that drives all of that work is that we wholeheartedly believe that the future of our health, land, water, and community relies on collective efforts to strengthen our food system and support those who grow our food. We all eat, so, you know, and we all enjoy the beautiful environments around us, and we want to, you know, foster that connection and make sure people are really connected to our place in the world and how those places sustain us, be it with food or just soul enrichment. So our local share program is our gleaning program. The team, that program was established in 2013, and our team connects with 25 to 30 different farmers in a season and works to glean surplus food from their fields. So anything that is maybe second grade that is still really delicious and nutrient dense food, but can't maybe be sold for a premium at markets. We have some really generous farmers who are willing to donate that surplus to the local share program, where we host free produce markets and invite community members to come out. No questions asked. Anybody who shows up gets to take home some food. We also work with over 100 food pantries in the region to distribute the food that's not going directly to the consumers in those markets. There's a lot it's a really, really well-run and well-established program that I could do a whole hour-long presentation about as well, but I'm happy to answer more questions about them at the end. So another program is our Pollenskill Watershed Program. So I'm sure similar to the Musconnet Watershed Association. We are bringing in stakeholders throughout the Pollenskill Watershed tributary area and giving them some watershed education, talking about native species and the importance of supporting that watershed environment and really how everything is connected, especially through our waterways. Also the Blairstown Farmers Market. This year will be the 17th season, and the Foodshed Alliance team started that market 17 years ago. We run the market every Saturday from June through November. And it is a mix of producer and it's mainly producer only, but we do have some, seasonal buy-in produce. So some farmers will connect with some of their friends, other farmers, and sell some of their like in-season fruits mainly that aren't grown by our direct farmers. So the SAGE program, Sustainable Agriculture Enterprises. We started this program in 2019, really rooted in the fact that New Jersey has some of the most expensive farmland in the state. I think we're neck and neck with Rhode Island every year on who's got they break it down between like cropland, pasture land, and like just general farmland. And between those three categories, we're number one in one of them usually, at least. So as an emerging farmer starting out, and really as any farmer trying to expand, it is borderline impossible to like buy a piece of farmland and start farming. So with that fact and that long-term access, like the norm in leasing land in our state is that there's like a 1-year rolling, maybe handshake deal. There's not really very much stability in those kinds of relationships for like a long-term, really growing your business and building up the soil and investing in infrastructure. That's really difficult to do on a 1-year lease. So with all of that in mind and trying to support the viability of future farm businesses in our state, the SAGE program came about. It was really trying to answer the question of like, how can we bridge that gap so emerging farmers can get into the field literally and have long-term access to farm in a way that is building up the soil and protecting the environment and making it more accessible for more people to really like get into this, profession. So, it doesn't hurt that the average age of farmers in New Jersey is 60 years old. So this is kind of a problem that we really need to like get the gears turning on. So anyway, so SAGE was born. So really the primary goals is to increase opportunities for land access, facilitate more organic and regenerative growers that are going to improve the health of the soil, the water, and of course, grow healthy food for the community. So currently we have 3 locations, one at Breadlock Park in Warren County, one on like the Newton, Andover, Freedon border in Sussex County, and one in Sargentsville in Hunterdon County. So all 3 of those locations are kind of a different way that it's set up. So at Breadlock Park in Warren County, we partnered with the county parks and the Warren County Agriculture Department, and there is a 5-acre flower farm there. The farmer there she's had a great run. She's grown her business from just kind of selling stuff at a roadside stand to being able to buy a florist in White House Station, hire 6 employees. She's really like, taken it and ran with it for sure. In Newton and Andover, we partnered with the Nature Conservancy and the Ridge and Valley Conservancy. And through both those partnerships, we were able to get ownership of the land because it's adjacent to the Muckshaw Pond Preserve. So they wanted that farmland to be farmed in a way that wasn't using chemical inputs and was kind of being farmed in a way that would protect that really important ecological site and the pond preserve. So all of that farmland is about 60 acres, and we lease that out to 9 different farm businesses. So they have plots ranging from 1 acre to 23 acres, depending on the business model. And then in Sargentsville, that's our newest location. That is in partnership with New Jersey Conservation Foundation. So we lease the land from them as Foodshed Alliance and then sublease parcels to 3 different farmers there. And this upcoming season will be their first official full season there. So we're very excited about that. So it's all about kind of like working with municipalities, working with other land conservancies, because I skipped over it in the last slide on accident, but you know, New Jersey has preserved almost 1/3 of our farmland, which is incredible. Like we're a fairly small state, but we have so much farmland and we are the garden state. And having 1/3 of the land preserved is incredible. And work like what Catherine and Hunterdon Land Trust are doing is incredible. We have to preserve that land and we have to, you know, protect the future of like how that land is used. But we see this as kind of the next step of like, okay, how do we get that farm is now preserved, which is incredible. And how do we now get that, you know, to be producing healthy food for the community and even taking it further to not just protect that piece of land, but to protect the surrounding environment with how that piece of land is used. So, you know, from this program, we're realizing that, you know, land access is really just a piece of the puzzle to get farmers on the land and to get more farm businesses in our communities and sustain agriculture. We are working to evolve the program to be providing not just land access, but market access, infrastructure for all the farmers in our program, ongoing education for not just the farmers in our program, but for our whole community. We have webinars and workshops scheduled throughout the year all the time, partnering with Laura Tessieri and NOFA and all kinds of other great New Jersey partners to really offer different kinds of workshops and classes and technical assistance on what we're seeing as a need for farmers to really keep taking those next steps to grow their businesses and make them really solid and successful. And of course, climate change resilience, that's kind of just impending on all of us. Like a few years ago, it was like, we have 60 harvests left. And I keep having that number 60, but time is going on and the 60 harvests left is kind of, still looming in the background, where if we keep farming in general, in this country, farming in the way of just monocultures and really just all these chemical inputs and tractor inputs, and it can't just be business as usual in that way. Of course, we need tractors still, and it's not a one size fits all solution, but building up that resilience on how we can, start to mitigate some of that in our region, I think is really important. So here's just some nice photos of some of our farmers and some of the educational things that we do with our community. And yeah, I'm happy to open up the discussion to kind of talk a little bit more about all of these things. Agriculture is only sustained in our region if we all participate. I think is the main thread of why Foodshed Alliance is really even here. We are all stakeholders in our food system. We all need to engage in that in a way that is healthy for not only us and our families, but for our whole environment and our whole region.
Tess, We got
Hi.
one question on local share. You're donating the food? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I've know Chip Palix down at America's Grower Row, and appreciate everything that he's doing too. And we've had great long discussions about the viability of donating food. You got to have some sort of a revenue model to keep everything going. You've got real costs associated with every product. I mean, you've got fuel, if nothing else, even if you're working with volunteers. And can you keep a free food distribution model going? Is there any long-term viability to that? How do you meet your costs?
Sure, that's a great question. You know, the local share program having been established officially in 2013, I think in 2012 we were doing some pay what you can dinners. So it's gone from really just this very grassroots, let's just try to get as much food to people in need as possible, to like a really you know, well thought out distribution system. And that's a great point. You know, we can't our local share coordinator Christine always says, and this has really stuck with me, what she always says, she's like, we're out here to try to shorten the lines, not just feed the lines. So I think that runs true in what you're saying as well, with like even the farmers. You know, we can't always ask for donations. They need to be compensated for their food, even if it is second grade, right? So right now it's still in the pilot and like planning stages, but we are developing a farm to food pantry model where we're kind of facilitating a purchase and distribution system between the food pantries and local farmers. So I can't say too much about that now because I am not fully familiar with the whole, like how it's going to play out, because it hasn't started yet. But a lot of the farmers in our SAGE program are signing up to kind of start this with this pilot. Because it's true, it's not there's so much cost overhead. Like in this picture, that this is Shannon on the left and Christine, which are our two full-time employees for local share, and they're some of the hardest working people I've ever met. They're just constantly picking up food and bringing it somewhere else, and coordinating with farmers, coordinating with pantries and volunteers and everyone. So you're right to bring that up. It's definitely, you know, it's a great need and in our communities and, you know, everywhere. But yeah, there are the farm to pantry model is one solution where we're, you know, finding funding from grants and various sources to, you know, have that cash flow through that system.
Have you looked at any pay what you can model? You started with that. And that seems to make some sense because you're allowing people some dignity in purchasing. And the other thing is that you're competing with the farmers who are donating the produce to you. And at one point, they're going to look around and realize what's going on. I mean, everybody wants to support what you're doing, no question. But long term, it's got to be a model that works. And the other thing is, and again, talking back and forth with Chip, how do you export this model to other parts of the world? Because it's important. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll shut up. Thanks.
No, thank you for bringing that up. That's a great point.
I saw Laura had a comment.
I did, thank you. Tess, thanks for your presentation today. I always like hearing about the good programs of the Foodshed Alliance. I wanted to ask a question about the SAGE plots and what you thought of as the future, right? For like, is there more just being the one that has these 3 farms, right? So you started with one and then have grown that you now have multiple farms that then can have these long-term leases with farmers. do you find that other land trusts or those that have open space are talking about creating more of these? So is the appetite there? And then what is like the biggest impediment or some of the impediments that, you know, the Foodshed Alliance has to overcome?
Sure. Thanks, Laura. So yes, we are approached all the time with people really curious about this model and really interested. I think like the general appetite, if to use your analogy, is that you know, people want more food grown in their communities. They want more farmers on the land. They want the land to be farmed sustainably and in a way that is really good for the ecosystem. So we're approached all the time by various land trusts, government entities to, you know, inquire about the program. And of course, being fairly new, we're still kind of developing what that looks like for each different model. Even private landowners are curious about having this type of thing on their land. So we're still developing that. And then that kind of feeds into one of our challenges right now, is that since we are at I guess this is, you know, like the 4th year, we're kind of at that pivotal moment of like, okay, if we expand any larger than this, how are we really standardizing all of these processes and making it so that it's a really, really solid and replicable model wherever it goes. Because right now, since every situation has been a little bit different, we've really been able to tailor it specifically to the partners that we're working with, the farmers that we get on those specific pieces of land. But in my view, for it to really move on sustainably, we have to figure out how to really make that standardized. That can, of course, be customized to fit different needs, but for the most part has that really, really solid core, which I think it does now, but I think we can even make it even stronger. And yeah, I think that was.
You bring up a really good point, I think, in that private landowners, right? Farmers, private farmers may be interested in then creating then long-term leases on a portion of their land. Maybe they don't have all their land in production, maybe they're an aging farmer, or you know, a younger farmer might be interested in doing an enterprise that's not in competition with what the farmer on the land is existing doing. I'm wondering if there are resources or ways, or you know, ways that we could help. And I know there's tons of organizations, right, that have this on the mind and are thinking, and but what can we all do to help move that forward, that this existing land that is out there? Maybe longer term leases could be just a given, a needed thing, right? To have that stability of being on the land, to be able to work with NRCS programs, to invest in you know, the property more than just a year by year basis. So you've given me something to think about. Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Yeah, we've definitely thought about also how to kind of make those pairings of like a older farmer aging out, and maybe they don't have anybody to pass their business on to, but there's these new and emerging farmers that kind of need a place to go and maybe need a little bit more mentoring. So that's definitely something that is really worth exploring for sure. And you know, we're trying to. Something really wonderful about this program is that it really does kind of cover a lot of different bases, and that is kind of one thread that I think is worth, you know, following.
I also saw another question from Ben.
Hi there. Awesome presentation. I had a quick question, just going back to, you were talking about some of the positive effects of a longer term lease on the land. I wanted to ask if the flip side has been seen as well. I could imagine a situation where a farmer thinks, oh, well, I only have a 1 year lease. I should burn through the resources in the soil? And do you find that in situations where there isn't that long-term lease, do they not necessarily obey the campfire rule, leave it a little bit worse for giving a, a more negative reason to have the positive change that you're talking about?
Hi, thanks, Ben. So to be honest, I can only speak from my experience. And for this program, we only offer 10-year leases. So I can't speak to how, other farmers with 1-year leases are acting. Personally, I had it was a 1 year and then a 3-year and then a 1 year. I had like various short term, and I just have the philosophy to I have that campfire philosophy, leave it better than you found it. But I found it really, really, really difficult to like invest in any sort of amendments or products that would really like help me, grow my business. And I wanted to grow like berries or something, but I couldn't put perennials in the ground because I couldn't make that huge investment to do that and then wait 5 years because who knows if I would still be there. So that's the only flip side I see on that, is that like, sometimes a 10-year lease will scare an emerging farmer. Like, oh, I don't know if I can like create a viable business plan for 10 years. I don't know if I can like this exact spot of ground is where I want to be for 10 years. And that's really the only, but I don't hear that from very many people. Most farmers who are ready to get into the game and have a fairly established business plan want to find a spot where they can be and not worry about having to leave for 10 years.
Gotcha, thank you. And just to clarify, I meant the negatives of the 1-year lease, as opposed to the positives of the long-term lease. Not saying that the long-term lease was negative, but thank you so much.
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, it's tough with a 1-year lease. I think it's also like a lot of it's really common for like hay farmers to just have that like handshake. Yeah, like okay. One other challenge that I didn't really get into is the neighbor perception of the land. Like I said before, everybody wants a beautiful, robust farm that's producing food and they can stop by and pick up their veggies for the week. Everybody wants that in their neighborhood. But the step from open hayfield to that farm producing a robust amount of vegetables is not always very pretty. And people are not always understanding of like that process to get there and what that looks like. And yeah, bit of a tangent there, but it is a challenge as far in what we're doing. Just getting people on board and understanding with that whole process of starting a farm and what that looks like.
Another question from Matt.
Hi, I'm a sustainability professor, and also balance that world with a lot of volunteer projects for both you guys and Foodshed Alliance. In my field, though, I hear and try to follow a whole lot of developments in agriculture that very wide ranging, and they sound exciting. I'm not sure they're all totally valid. Like today I read an article about soil farming, which seems a little iffy, but lots and lots of exciting ideas that kind of link many, many things together, like you're already doing, but take it even further. Ideas like more projects to favor biodiversity, because we're having major issues in that area. Tess finally mentioned climate change. Some of you know I've been on that horse for a number of years, because it's like, for the most part, until very, very recently, we're oblivious. And it's one of the biggest problems we have. But focusing on the opportunity side, I'm seeing more and more references to regenerative farming, and Tess mentioned it too. Tess, are you sure everybody has heard of it or even knows what it is? And are we taking enough advantage of it? I'll stop there.
Sure. No, thank you for bringing that up. It can get a little bit like, I know, in this world, it's like organic and sustainable and regenerative. And sometimes it's hard to keep up with all of these different terms. And thank you for pointing that out. I should have explained it a little bit better. But so the way that I think of it is like, when you're sustainable, you are taking the amount that can fulfill your purposes, but also have enough to not be detrimental for future generations. So you're leaving enough for future generations to have what they need, and you're taking as much as you can in order to still do that. In a regenerative system, you are not only taking what you need to, fulfill your needs now and leaving what you have, what the next generation needs, but you're also adding something new. That's kind of like the campfire analogy that Ben and I were just talking about. You're leaving it better than you found it. You're not just taking what you need and leaving enough. You're adding something of value to the next. So Rodale Institute with some partners has developed a regenerative organic standard. So it's on top of an organic certification. You can get certified as regenerative organic. And their standards, off the top of my head, are like, it even ties in some social justice. So it's like, how are you treating your farm workers? How are you treating any animals or wildlife as part of your system? And of course, how are you treating the land in a way that not only sustains your business and sustains the ecosystem, but gives something back. Because, as I'm sure most of us are aware, and Matt brought up again, climate change, we've gotten ourselves to such a detrimental point that really, like, anything we can give back to the system, sustainable, is almost not enough because we've taken so much already. So building that back and regenerating those ecosystems is what I'm talking about there. And, it's hard to say because as I started this little tangent here, the advertising world is really quick, and greenwashing all of these different terms gets to a point where it's like, it's almost hard to say in really broad strokes what that even means, as far as like when you're looking for products and stuff. I always just, my point, I always try to drive home when people are looking for like regenerative or organic or whatever kind of specific product they're looking for, just like know your farmer and talk to your farmer. If your farmer is farming in a regenerative way, they're so excited to talk about it. That's really my bottom line. You'll be able to tell by just one conversation with your farmer how they're growing their food. That's.
Do you think we can do more to promote regenerative farming? Or do we just have to kind of like go slow and kind of take it as it comes?
If you ask me, I always think we can be doing more. I think, but not to get into like a huge tangent here, it's like we're all operating within a system that is pretty broken. And in my personal opinion, that system has to change in order for us to really, sustain and grow agriculture in a way that's going to actually support the amount of people that we have on this planet. But I could go down that rabbit hole for a while here, Matt. So we'll have to maybe not do this on Musconecon Watershed's time here. I don't want to go too deep for you guys.
Well, thank you so much. If anybody else has questions for either Tess or Catherine, feel free to ask.
Just make a quick comment. I live up in Belvedere, and we've got Mackey's Orchard nearby. That's like our one farm stand, but like Google Earth around us, and I'm just surrounded by farmlands. and the lack of access to any of the goods that comes off of the lands is just really disappointing. I gotta pretty much go back down to Washington to find any of the farm markets. I don't know. It's just an observation and a disappointment of living in the rural country out here. So
Yeah, that's a shame. I mean, it's kind of, it is really disappointing. Some of these rural communities that it's like anywhere you look, you see farmland. And I know like Mackey's has a beautiful orchard, and there's so many different types of farms, but it is really hard to like access the food that is grown, if there's food grown there. You know, and of course there's a lot of corn and soy fields around. So Tom, I see your hand up.
Tess, what's been the reaction to your programs for the Department of Agriculture and the State Board and County Boards of Agriculture? They tend to be dominated by the old guard, if you will. What's the reaction, and what advice could you have to break through?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I have nothing but good things to say about all of the individuals that we've worked with at the State Agriculture Development Committee, the New Jersey Department of Ag. Everybody's been really supportive. I think it's also a general, like, how can we support you? Also, this program's really new and let's see how it goes kind of vibe that I'm picking up on, you know. But everybody's been really supportive. And even the Eric Derby started this program and has been the SAGE program manager and is now kind of in a more robust role in the whole organization. And I'm kind of picking up some more SAGE things from him. And he has been working with the SADC and the Department of Ag to try to change some rules about, just for one example, we were trying to put up deer fencing around the land, because obviously that's a really big challenge for our small farmers. But since we were trying to apply as the like landowner, but since we're a nonprofit and we don't make 51% of our income from the farm, we weren't eligible for the fencing grant. So I credit Eric to having all of these conversations with all these different government entities that this year they changed the rule and we're allowed to apply now. So it's just kind of, you know, I always dig my heels into everyone who works in government. Everyone is a broad stroke, but the vast majority of people who work in government are wonderful, amazing people who get into it to try to help their community and change the world in the way that they want to see it changed. The system is broken. The people are amazing. And when we are working with the people and, you know, just having conversations about, you know, practical realities of like, hey, we're trying to do something new here and this system isn't really working for what we're trying to set up. You know, things will change. But to Matt's point, maybe not as fast as I want it to, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
All right, I guess I'll do a last call. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, what's up with the mouse moving around the whole time?
That's just me. Sorry.
Someone's pretty nervous. Thank you, Tess.
Yeah.
Good show.
Thank you so much to Tess Mullen. Thank you so much to Catherine Suttle, both for sharing your time, sharing your knowledge. I also wanted to thank our president of our board, I noticed is here, Richard Cotton, as well as our vice president, Bill Levins. Thank you for coming out tonight. And thank you to everybody for taking the time to join us. I'm going to put a few upcoming events from MWA into the chat. It's just so you can see what's coming up. Our biggest thing coming up next is the river-wide cleanup. So if anybody wants to volunteer, do some trash pulling, we've got that coming up, and you'll see some other things on there too. So once again, thank you all so much.
Oh, can I just plug one more thing? I also
course.
wanted to say, we have an event on this Thursday at Buttsville Brewing. We call it Green Drinks. It's basically just a like networking opportunity. We invite all the farmers in our network. Anybody in the community who's interested in talking about things like this, absolutely welcome to come. We love, you know, the more the merrier. Everybody's welcome. So if
Great.
anyone is, it's Buttsville Brewing in Washington Township at 6 p.m. this Thursday, so March 7th.
Great. Thanks, Tess.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Catherine and Tess. Wonderful program. Exciting future.
Good show.
Thanks for having me. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, everyone.